I think we have co-location. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, they're not. They signed a lease in a building, which I can tell you about. You probably not near there. And I'm asking that to be located there. You have the NDI there. You have a lighter there. You have the whole team there. That's where it makes sense. And everyone that I've talked to off the record thinks it should be there. And I've made the request that it be there. And I'm just trying to get an answer since it comes on to you. Will you co-locate it and put it there?
Well, I will certainly take that recommendation into consideration, but as I said, the fact is that the HIG is a multi-jurisdiction, a multi-agency entity, and the fact of its existence means that there is co-location wherever the larger entity is actually placed.
Okay. That's probably a maybe, I don't know. But John Adams Project. Over the weekend, the Washington Times reported that the Department of Justice officials refused to share CIA concerns in a briefing for the President with regard to the consequences of the ACLU's John Adams Project, which hired photographers to track down CIA officers, and many who probably live in my district, and share their photos and personal information with alleged terrorists at Guantanamo. Is this report accurate? Were the CIA concerns included in the briefing to the President, and if not, why?
If you're talking about the Washington Times report?
Well, I'm talking about the John Adams Project. Yes, I am talking about that, but the information whereby it was not put in there as they requested the CIA.
Right. Well, the Times article is riddled with inaccuracies. There's only so much I can say about that because there is an ongoing investigation into the core of what was at that Times article.
Okay. With respect, I haven't found much of what you said today really in response to the legitimate questions that we've tried to. You know, in 1998, I came back from Algeria where 175,000 people were killed, and the bombing took place in Nairobi, Tanzania, and people from my district died. I put in the bill to set up the National Commission on Terror. It was the Bremer Commission, and the Bush administration ignored it, and so did the Clinton administration. We're just trying to legitimately ask some questions. Every one I've asked, there's not a yes or a no or I'll do this or we'll report to you. We just can't seem to, from the Uyghurs straight on to the Yemen, straight on to the Somaliland, we just can't seem to find out any answers. And with all due respect, Mr. Attorney General, I don't think you're served that well when, whether it be Republican or Democrat, asking an honest, legitimate, honest, ethical, moral question, not trying to. And I respect you. I'm not trying to create a problem. I'm just trying to get to the answer. You know, 30 people from my district died in the attack on the Pentagon. Michael Spahn, who was a CIA employee who was killed, the first person killed, I went to his funeral out at Arlington Cemetery. He's from my, I'm just trying to find out. The pilot of the airplane that went into the Pentagon was from my district. We're trying to get to work in a bipartisan way to really do what's best for the country, not in a gotcha way, but to make a difference, to make the country safe. But I haven't had any answers, and I can't get an answer out of your department. The letter you sent up the other day, you said reference to this letter, this letter, this letter, this letter. This is the answer, and there's no answer. Let me move on to it. Let me move on.
With regard to the responses that we have sent up there, there are more letters that you have sent to us. There are fewer responses that we have sent back. But I think the responses that we have sent back do, in fact, answer all of the things that are contained in the letters that you have sent.
Well, with respect, I don't think that's accurate. What I will do is I'll put my letters in the record at this point and your two letters in the record, and the history can make a judge as to whether that's accurate. Congress unanimously passed, it was my bill with former Senator Kennedy, the Prison Rape Elimination Act of 2003 in recognition of the urgent need to address the crisis of sexual abuse in U.S. corrections facilities. The National Prison Rape Elimination Commission spent more than 5 years holding public hearings and drafting recommended national standards. The law requires that you issue a final rulemaking binding standards by June 23rd of 2010, 1 year after the Commission issued its recommendations. You're not going to make that. And prison rape is a serious problem, particularly with regard to young people, but anyone. And I can't understand why you would have not followed through. We had the commission, we had the recommendation, we had everything set up. And now what is the status? Will there be a final ruling, or what's the status of that coming out? And lastly, the question that troubles me, the budget request for FY 2011 includes a $10 million reduction in prison rape elimination related funding, leaving just $5 million for efforts to address sexual violence in detention. And I think to have rape of a person who goes to prison is unacceptable, and Senator Kennedy had that in, and Bobby Scott and I did, and we expect this to be implemented now to protect people that are in prison.
Well, I mean, I share your concerns about the sexual mistreatment of people who go to prison. I was a judge. I sent people to prison, and I would never want to think that anybody I sent to prison to serve time would have to deal with the things that that commission uncovered. One of the things that I would note is that the commission was given 2 years in order to make its findings. We were given 1 year in which to then implement them. We're doing the best that we can. I've met with the commission on, I think, 3 occasions at this point, met with the chairman of that commission, Judge Walton. We want to make sure that we get this right and also follow the dictates of the statute, which says change this situation, make sure that you eliminate to the extent that you can sexual predator and predator activity in prisons, but not increase the amount of money that any local jurisdiction has to spend in order to do that. It is not an easy task, and we will not make that 1 year deadline, but we will do this as quickly as we can. And the fact that we will not make that deadline is not in any way an indication this is not a problem that we take seriously. I have experience with this in a way that, others do not. I have, as I said, sent people to jail, and I know what happens in our prisons. I know the people who I sent to Lorton before that facility was closed and what they had to deal with there, and it weighed on my conscience as a judge. It weighs on my conscience as Attorney General, and I'm determined to try to do this, but to do it in the right way.
Well, I helped close down Lorton because of that very, very reason. But you are reducing your budget for FY 2011 includes a $10 million reduction in the funding for the program, leaving just $5 million. So you can say you were a judge and you're interested, but the reduction sends the wrong message. I mean, you are known by your budget in essence, and that's sort of the landmark. Anyway, move every time, every delay, and if you've been reading the series of articles that have been going on, prison rape is a serious problem, and another long delay will mean more people will be faced this in prison. And I'm disappointed in the fact that you've reduced the funding for something that you say you're interested in. The last question.
Well, we have to deal with a deadline that, with all due respect, that I think was artificially short, given the fact that you gave 2 years to the commission to do its work and only 1 year to the department to effectuate the findings of that.
Because the department drug its heels on this issue and didn't want to deal with this issue. So we brought some of the best minds in to look at this to give them adequate time. Right now, the department should have enough information to move ahead. People are being raped in prison every day. Every day. Today, by the end of the day, someone will be, that will happen to them. And so to push this off for another year is unacceptable. And to reduce your funding at the same time. The last question.
I will do what the statute says that we have to do. We will do it right. But let me just say one thing. The degree to which we measure seriousness, if you want to say it's about money, I have to wonder, what was it that drove this body to say, you have the responsibility to make these changes, to make sure these changes occur, and yet it cannot have a cost impact. When I speak to wardens, when I speak to people who run local jails, when I speak to people who run state facilities, they look at me and they say, Eric, how are we supposed to do this? If we are going to segregate people, build new facilities, do training, how are we supposed to do this? And that is what we are trying to work out, ways in which we can follow the dictates of the statute and do something that is going to be meaningful, not something that is going to simply be, a show thing, something that's going to have a measurable impact.
I know, but we put the legislation in because we talked to people that it happened to. And it's not a show thing, it's a real thing, it's a reality thing. And Senator Kennedy felt strongly about it, Bobby Scott felt strongly about it, and I feel strongly about it.
You came
up to me last year. You came up and you said, we're working on this and we're going to deal with this. Another whole year has gone by. Anyway, I have no more questions with regard to that issue. I yield back.
Let me just on the record say that I feel as serious about it as you do, and my comment was only directed at the fact that you were taking note of the fact that we have reduced our funding here for that. And I was saying, well, Congress, in saying that this is something they were serious about, also said you can't spend money in order to effectuate in order to deal with the problem. That's what the law says.
Mr. Schiff.